Now we are in a process. What is to be next? The next is the process model. Next is the process model. So one simple question that I will ask to all of you. So you have to develop a student management system, and the second application that you have to develop, that is what I can say, that banking management system. So both are to be considered same or different. One is student management system,
Different.
the second is banking management system. So from your point of
Different.
view, different. So different in terms of what?
Risk.
Risk. Okay, the risk is
Security.
risk, security. Then any other criteria?
Features.
Okay, features. Features we can say in terms of functionality. Remember this word, functionality. So if I'm developing a student management system, then they have some limited functionalities are to be there. Okay, that is to be called as a functional requirement. Functional requirement means what? Student enrollment, parents enrollment, teachers enrollment into the system, attendance system. Okay, everything is to be there. Student results, all these information are to be there. But while I am talking about a banking management system, there are more number of functional requirements are to be there compared to the student management system. So that later on we will see. So again, what I need to say that from one project to another project, the process that we are follow, it is not to be same. So based on the functional requirements of the software, we have to select the process. And for that, different kinds of process models are there. The models are nothing but it is one type of templates are to be available. So if your requirement will match with any of these templates, then directly we will follow the steps that is given into that template. Here, instead of template, we are saying a process model. So list of process models are to be available. Based on our requirements, we will select which is the best appropriate process model for our software development product. There are so many process models are to be there, but as a limitation of your curriculum, whatever things are to be there in your curriculum, that we will consider for the discussion. So what exactly the process model? A structured set of activities required to develop a software system. That is called as a process model. Structured set of activities. Structure means what? Once this activity is completed, then next activity. If it is completed, then next. So it is the activities are to be in a structured way. Main purpose is what? To develop a software system in a better way. So many different software process, but all involve what? Specification. There are so many process models are there, but every process model have this kind of things are to be there. First is specification, then design and implementation in every process model, validation and evaluation. These four are available in every process model. Specification means what? Defining what the system should do. Design and implementation is what? Defining the organization of the system and implementing the system. Validation, checking that it does what the customer wants. So during the validation, what we are checking, whether we have developed as per the customer wants, that is the main task during the validation. Evaluation means what? The changing the system in response to the changing customer need. So if a customer will require to change, our system is able to adapt the change. So now I can more precise way I can define what do you mean by software process model. So software process model is an abstract representation of a process. Before this we have discussed about a software process. Now we are going into the more detail. The first part is what? Software process model. So software process model is nothing but it is an abstract representation of a process. So now we are representing a process in an abstract way and this structure is to be referred as a process model. A software process model represents a description of process from some particular perspective. So it presents a description of a process from some particular perspective. So when we describe and discuss the process, we usually talk about the activities in these processes. These processes such as specifying data model, designing a user interface, etc. and the ordering of all these activities. That is the most important thing. So process description may also include a product which are the outcomes of a process activity. Once you will follow one activity for a process, what will be the end product? If you are doing some work, then at least you should know that what will be the output. Okay, whatever work you are doing, I'm not talking about only reading and all these things, but if you are doing anything else, at least you should know that what will be the output. If someone is cooking at your home, then at least you should know that what will be the output. It is not look like that. We will put all the ingredients and all vegetables and finally whatever it will come, it will be the surprise. It is not look like that. So before starting off the one activity, okay, you know what will be the final work product. Okay, and that is the what I am saying that a validation. So at the start, you are planning to make one particular item for cook. And finally, you are checking whether whatever our goal that we have achieved or not. Once it is completed, then you are testing and then you are realizing that whatever we are planning and whatever what was our goal, whether we have achieved or not. So these are the some process models, software process model. The first is the waterfall model. The second is the incremental model. The next is the reuse oriented software engineering. The waterfall model, plan-driven model. So it will separate and distinct the phases of specification and development. We will discuss all this model in more details. This is only the brief. Then it will suggest waterfall. Okay. Then next is the incremental development. The next is the reuse oriented software engineering. So it may be a plant driven or agile. Later on we will see what is agile because there is a one separate unit for agile methodology. So in practice, most large systems are developing using a process that incorporate the elements from all of these models. So this is our first model, process model, first process model, waterfall model. Is there anyone who can explain me briefly looking at this diagram?
First, we will get all the requirements, then plan for the product, and then design. Then we will ask the customer that the design is okay or not. If he tells us to improve something, then we will replan and redesign it. And once the customer will say the design is okay, then we will go for implementation. Then we will check whether the functionalities of the software is working properly or not. Then we will provide it to the user and ask him for feedback, and then we will finally deploy it.
Okay, so here the different phases are there that already we have discussed during the SDLC, software development life cycle. So the first is what the requirement. The requirement that we have to collect from the customer as well as from the stakeholders. Once the requirements are to be collected, the requirements are to be documented. Here, whatever I am discussing, it is not a verbal thing. Everything must be documented. And there are some predefined templates or standards are to be there for writing all these phases into the documentation. Because the documentation is the most important part in a software industry. If your documentation is poor, then the reusability of the software cannot be available in future. Okay, the requirements. So once the requirements are to be available with you, then you can plan what to do. So based on your planning, now you are able to create a schedule for developing or completing this complete software. So once the requirements are available, once we have analyzed all the requirements, then we will start about the design. We will discuss later on in a design unit which are the different kinds of designs are to be there for developing a software. So once the design, when you completed the requirement engineering or requirement task, then we will move to the design part. Okay, so we have to complete all different kinds of design with the documentation, with the proper diagram, whatever the standard diagrams are there, based on that you are creating your diagrams for your relevance with your problem. So based on the design, again we will able to either replan whatever we have initiated, or it may be possible we can able to again reschedule if it is necessary. So once the design is over, then the design documentation is to be hand over to the implementation team. So looking at the implementation design document, the implementation team or development team will start to implement the in a programming language. So once the thing is to be implemented, then next it comes integration. Now what is the integration basically? The integration is what? Might be you will see that nowadays the government are developing a overbridge at different locations. Now the metro works also to be continue in Ahmedabad city also. Now you can see that they are first of all building what they are constructing a pillar. So in that pillar, they are putting some small component of a bridge. Okay, they are not developing a complete bridge at a one moment. They are developing a small part. They are putting that into the pillar. They will connect two pillars. That two parts are to be connected. That is called the integration. The same scenario is to be available in a software also. The software will contains n number of functional requirements. Now, so based on the relevant functional requirements are divided into the number of modules, a smaller module. That already you learn in a data structure mathematics and statistics also, that terminology or strategy that is called a divide and conquer. You have already learned about merge sort. How merge sort will work? Is there anyone who can give me some brief idea?
Divide and conquer.
But conquer will work.
Divide the list into subparts and check whether it is sorted or not. If it
Okay,
is
is
not
there
sorted, then sort.
okay? Is there any other one?
સર એને એ રીતે ડિવાઈડ કરવાના જેથી બધા જે એક એક એલિમેન્ટ આવે તે સોર્ટેડ આવે એને આપણે પાછું સોર્ટેડ એને મર્જ કરવું સહેલું છે.
Is there any other one who can describe divide and conquer in a more detailed way?
સર મર્જ શોટમાં જે મેઇન એરે હોય છે એને વારે વારે ડિવાઈડ કરીને સિંગલ 1 કે 2 યુનિટ લાવવામાં આવે બરાબર પછી એને શોર્ટ કરવામાં આવે અને પછી જે એરે બને એને પછી પાછો મર્જ કરી દેવામાં આવે.
But why we are doing all these kind of things for dividing in? Is there any purpose?
Because you can
Yes,
check
sir.
multiple.
Tell me.
Because we can check multiple. We can compare multiple elements at the same time simultaneously.
Okay, that is okay, but what are the advantages for doing all this work?
સર હોલ એરે ને એક સાથે મતલબ કમ્પેર કરવો અઘરો હોય બટ એની કમ્પેરિઝનમાં નાના નાના એરે ને કરવો સહેલા હોય કમ્પેર એટલે.
The main task is what? If you have a one problem and that problem is bigger, what we will do there, we will divide that problem into the sub problem. Yes or no?
યસ સર.
Yes, sir.
Again, that sub problem, if it is again it is divisible into the some smaller problem, then again we will divide it. Up to what? Up to that level we can go that now it is not divisible, that problem. Then we will start to solving that sub problem. So what I can say that, for example, if you have one problem at first level, you can divide into the 4 parts. Now that 4 parts again it will be divided into the 12 parts. Now all these 12 parts cannot be divisible in more. So what we are doing at the bottom, we are providing a solution for all these 12 subparts. So once you have a solution of all 12 subparts, we will merge it. And now we will move to the upper level. Then upper level. So if you get the root, then you have the solution of your problem. So it will save your effort, it will give you a better result. So many things are to be there. So that is nothing but it is called as the integration in a software development also. So based on your relevance of your functional requirement, it will be divided into the number of modules. So the different peoples are working in a different modules. Okay, then once all the modules are ready, then we can combine all these modules, and this combination or that is nothing but it is called as a integration. So once you combine all the modules or once you integrate all the modules, then first of all we have to check individually the module is working good. Okay, if you provide a solution for a sub problem, then it will work good. Now we have combined two different modules. Now we have to check whether this, when you combine two modules together, then whether the combination of this module will work in the same manner. That is nothing but it is called as a validation. The validation in a other term, we can say it is a testing. And the last step, that is the deployment. So we are going to deploy your software product to the customer for evaluation and the feedback purpose. So this is nothing but this is one of the software process And that process, if you combine, then it is one model, and that model is to be called as a waterfall model. Is there any question, doubt in this slide? If you have a doubt, question.
સર પછી રિવર્સ ડાયરેક્શન માં જે એરો બતાવ્યા એ શેના માટે?
Okay, that I will discuss. So there are separate identified phases in the waterfall, the requirement analysis and definition. This is the more in detail. In a picture, I am not describing everything in a more detail. This is a abstract view of your waterfall model. The detailed thing is what? The requirement analysis and definition during the requirement phase. Then the system and software design that will be done during the design. Then implementation and unit testing that will be done as a part of implementation and validation. Then the operation and maintenance will come in the deployment. Waterfall model is mostly used for large system engineering projects where software is developed at several sites. So are you able to understand? We are developing a large software. Large means what? That software has a more functional requirement. The software will contain more number of functional requirement. That software is to be considered as a large. The software which has a limited number of functional requirement, that software is to be called as a small. Here we cannot take a weightage or weight of a software. Either it is a 2 kg, 5 kg, 10 kg, like that. These are not the measurement for considering this is a small project or big project or medium project. The project is to be considered as a large, medium and small based on the functional requirement. That always remember. Now the main drawback of the waterfall model is the difficulty of accommodating the change after the process is underway. What do you mean? The phase has to be complete before moving on to the next phase. So you cannot directly move or jump from requirement to implementation. You cannot directly jump to requirement to the implementation. You have to follow in a sequence. So first you have to complete the complete requirement task, then and then you have to complete the design part, then and then you can move to the implementation. That is the waterfall model. That is to be called as a drawback of a waterfall model. Now the last line is most important. This model is only appropriate when the requirements are well understood. Why? Because if you completed one phase, if you are working in a second phase, and if your customer will say that these are the changes that you have to accommodate into your software, then you have to start the first phase from zero. You have already completed the requirement phase. You are in a design part. You are doing a design part, and that moment of time, you got some changes in your requirements. So you cannot adopt those changes during the design phase. You have to start from the requirement phase again. That is the main drawback. So that is the reason the waterfall model is only appropriate when the requirements are well understood. So once the customer are saying the requirements, that all the requirements you have to understood 100%. So if you understood all the requirements properly, then you have to adopt this waterfall model because this is the simplest and easiest software process model, waterfall model. Why not a waterfall? Because software is a different. No fabrication steps are there in a waterfall model. Here you cannot able to get the prototype of your model. Prototype means what? One small working model of your project that you are not able to get it in a waterfall. So these are again I am describing the drawbacks of the waterfall model. It will provide no guidance how to handle the changes to the product and activity during the development. Assume requirements can be frozen. Frozen means fixed. Once you will move from the requirement to the next phase, now you have to understood that your requirements are free. Free means fixed. Now you cannot change it. If you will want to change it, then again you have to start your waterfall model from the zero. There is no iterative activities that lead to create a final product. Iterative activities are not be possible in a waterfall model. Here, long wait before the final product. Once you will complete all the phases, then and then you will get your final product. But if you follow incremental model or prototype model, so at intermediate stage, you are able to get the one prototype model. Prototype means what? That model have contained some functionality. Not all the functionality are to be completed, but some of the functionalities are to be there and we have implemented and we can give to the customer for feedback purpose. That we will discuss later on in the next process model. But this is what the waterfall model. So when to use the waterfall model, we discuss about so many drawbacks, but there are some advantages are there for waterfall model. When the requirements are well known, means if you are developing some software that already you have developed in the past, or your requirement engineering team are saying that we have understood 100% the customer or stakeholders requirement, then blindly you have to adopt a waterfall model. Product definition is stable. Means what? Now whatever the requirements we have collected from the customers or stakeholder, now it is not going to be changed. Then we will start with the waterfall model. We will able to understood the technology properly, then we can start with the waterfall model. If you are developing a new version of an existing product, then obviously we have to follow the waterfall model. Like Windows Office 2016 is available now. They are planning to develop my Windows for 2022, or like if I can say to develop MS Office for 2020 or 22, then what the older version is already available, we have to add some features and the new version will be there. Then we directly choose a waterfall model. A portion of existing product to a new platform. If one product is already developed for one particular platform, like you have developed one software for Android platform, now you want to develop the same product into the Mac platform. Select a